So in this particular video we are going to attempt to try and bake multiple components and see what happens. So essentially we have our high poly underneath and we've got our low poly here. So I've named it LP_handle. So in this instance you can clearly see we have one huge cohesive low poly mesh. That's going to suit our needs for the time being. There's also one smoothing group on there as well to make life a bit easier for us. So we are just going to have to set this up so it's in the right location. From my understanding over there, if on your Turbo Smooth you have isoline display on, it can often ruin your normal map. So if we were to look at this, this is with isoline display off, where we're just showing the Turbo Smooth and polys. This is with isoline display on. So isoline display can potentially cause issues. So if your bakes come out in this fashion, where you've got really warped stuff going on, then it's pretty self-evident that isoline display has been left on and needs to be removed. So just turn off isoline display. So let's try and give this a bake. And as always, we should save this out to play it ultra safe, because the baking process can be temperamental. I'm going to do save selected on that. I will dump this into my second year vids folder again, and I'm going to call it number 4 and call it Multibake. There we are. But let's just select our low poly again, LP_handle. I haven't bothered to name all my high poly aspects. It's time consuming. Ideally you do want to do that. You never know when you might need to do so, to be fair, so you should do that. So we've got our low poly selected. We need to make sure the unwrap is clean. So this is an area where you need to be very careful. You need to make sure that your unwrap is as optimal as is possible and contains no errors. So select inverted is okay, select overlapped is okay, select overlap over there, just pumped up a slight little minor error over here, so let's have a look at that. It thinks that is overlapped for whatever reason. Yeah, it's clearly not. If for any reason it does something strange like so, what you can find is if you can just select it and then try using tool to relax could potentially fix things. So select by poly angle, start relax, stop, apply, okay, and let's try doing that again. So select overlapped, and you can see now it says nothing is overlapped, even though it wasn't overlapped previously. But it doesn't matter. If you do have those very thin tries, try using the relax option over here, and then try it by poly angles. It often resolves a lot of issues. There's also an edge there that needs to be fixed. That's crept in, that needs to be resolved, but I'm not going to worry about that. Select invert is okay, and select overlap is alright. So everything is as possibly optimal as could possibly be. This here is the correct texel rate for everything as well. That's crucial as well, come to think about it. And there's naturally lots of wasted space here, because ultimately I can't do anything with it. The width of the handle is what's going to dictate ultimately the final resolution of the entire asset. So no doubt, if I was to create all the rest of it, the actual robo rifle, then naturally that's going to be used to fill in all the gaps. But for the time being, that is optimal. But please make sure that when you are doing your baking, nothing is averted, nothing is overlapped, and everything is in nice large cohesive UV shells with no obvious errors. If you have fragmentation everywhere, or anywhere for that matter, then that is guaranteed an error. And whenever you do your bake, it's going to result in, it may well result in a bake, but that bake will not be optimal. You could essentially be reducing your texel rate overall by half, by not optimizing your UV shells. So it's truly crucial. Without that bake being, without the unwrap being proper and efficient, everything beyond that would fall apart, including any wonderful high resolution modeling you've been doing, anything doing substance for that matter as well. The UV map is truly crucial. So let's give this a twirl. The collapse 2 on there. I'm also going to triple check and save it. 0, rent it to texture, and in all probability it's crashed twice before, so I'm not hopeful that it's going to work first time round. Hey ho, it has. Well, I'll be damned. Click on add, give it a few seconds to do its thing. Obviously complete total not a mess, given the fact that we've got lots and lots of individual components. Quite remarkable actually. So shaded point to point reset. I'm only doing that now just because it's a complete mess and I just wanted to clean it up slightly. Normally I would ensure that I've baken out the correct settings on here and then do that, but you know, 6 and 2 3s. So enable projection map is on. We've picked our high. We do need to tell it to use Hammersley where possible, just to try and remove any of those issues with, you know, dodgy jagged pixels. We'll tell it we want to bake normal map over the previous one, 2048 by 2048, and it could potentially take a few moments. If I was to hit render now, note that we've got floating geometry and we really do need to go and fix that as well. So I'm just going to select that, press Control, convert that into polys, and I'm just going to move that out. I'm going to apply the same principle on the other side, select that, convert that selection into vert, and then just adjust that so it goes beyond the boundaries. And now, because I've done that now, if I use push, I could possibly do it that way, but I find just controlling it individually works better. So if I hit push now, we're going to end up in a scenario where it's going to expand it much further. So what you might want to do is initially just push it so everything else is correct, and then do your expansion of this specific area individually after that. So if you just reset the cage and do that again. So I'm just going to make sure it goes beyond the boundaries of the high. So I'm just focusing in on the entire asset in its entirety. That looks okay. And then I'm going to do these manually. So just select that and then just push it out. Go around the other side, select that, convert that selection, and then push it out. And that should be sufficient enough. So let's just do a quick render of that and see what happens. Click on render. There's quite a lot of information for it to bake there. So even with, you know, a system as powerful as mine, it is taking its time doing those bakes. So just bear that in mind if you have something which is arguably substantially more detailed than this, and you will have, and you should have, then naturally this can take quite a while. And this is where you need to be slightly careful and think, okay, do I need to do my breaks in or my normal maps in specific segments? Or for that matter, are you going to dump the entire thing into Substance Painter and do a bake from there? Which inevitably I will do a video based on that shortly. So we'll just wait till this finishes. There's a few minor errors over here you can see, just there and just here as well. In the long run, I should go back and just repair those, make sure they don't appear. You never know how prominent that error may be, so it's wise to go back in there and repair that. But I'm not going to bother doing it for the purpose of this. You guys will need to do that. That there, I wouldn't be concerned about. That there, for me, doesn't quite look right and would need resolving. So that will do. That looks like it's certainly baked something. So note the fact that I just had one gigantic low poly all stitched together, and I just had numerous high poly objects. So I'm going to copy that, and let's apply our material and see what happens. So I'm going to duplicate this again. And note, I've got a nice grey on there, dark grey, and I've got my current specularity setup on there as well. So same process as always. You are going to almost have to use a combination of, or make some conscious decision with regards to, are you going to bake it entirely within Substance Painter, or are you going to use 3ds Max for that matter? If you go via the Max method, then you will have to figure out how you're going to bring that normal map in there and combine that with all the other textures for your asset. My personal preference would be dump it into Painter, let Painter do its thing, but that's going to require us potentially exporting out a cage, which I'll show you soon enough. So we're in the process now where we just need to adjust this and see what it looks like. So assign that, make sure that's on. Realistic with maps is enabled, and then just focus in on that and hide everything else. You can see our floating geometry is baked across quite nicely. The rest of it appears to be okay. Remember how we said we did have those little minor finicky errors, and they appear to be just over here. So that's an area where I would need to go back in there and just repair that. Maybe tidy up some of this low poly geometry to try and remove that issue. But just bear in mind, in some cases you might find that if it's heavily dirty and grime, and maybe that's going to be with ambient occlusion there, or it's going to have a lot of wear and tear, then might not necessarily get too bogged down with trying to refine that purely because of the fact that it's hardly ever going to be seen. But if it was self-evident on a large section such as this, then clearly it's an issue that needs to be resolved. So you can see that we have successfully managed to bake all of those individual complex components directly onto one large low poly variant. So this is a small scale test, and you are encouraged to do the same. Do not finish the entire thing and then try and do it all in one fell swoop. Suicidal, to say the least. Attempt to do it on something which is small scale like this. Make sure it works, make sure it looks as it should look, and then and only then attempt to do so on a larger scale asset. So that there seems to successfully replicate what we have in our high poly over here, including the floating geometry. So combine all your individual smaller components together for your low poly, and give this some form of test as soon as you can.